¿Lo enfrenta si era de Argentina o era de no, España, pero de, ¿cómo se llama esta área? Ajá, que hablan casi así, ¿no?
K-A-O, no, I haven't ordered the Kiori. No, just, I'm asking like, how much for the delivery fee if I order? Westside office? The Westminster? Mhm. The Los Angeles 90224. Yes. How much? 55. So, or can I just pick it up once you guys done? Okay, sure. Just, so I'm filling the form right now, so just email me you guys after this, or what should I do? Um, So I have to create the agent login account. Email you guys. Okay. What's the email? I think is it one or what's your? Can you email me to right now? Oh, okay, got it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Bye.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna shut the door.
Yeah.
Should I start the video? Sure.
Sure.
Episode of Philosopher's Notes TV. Hi, this is Brian, and welcome back to another episode of Philosopher's Notes TV. Another great one today. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, who is brilliant. This book is really, really good. He's a smart guy, and this book is extraordinarily inspiring, well written, and awesome. The Obstacle is the Way. We've got 5 big ideas. I've got the Philosopher's Note here with a bunch more ideas. We're going to cover my favorite ones here. The Obstacle is the Way is basically an integration of ancient Stoic philosophy. So think Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. We've got Philosopher's Notes and TV episodes on each of their primary works. And I'll just read to you a quote from Aurelius. So Aurelius, old school Roman emperor / Stoic philosopher, tells us, the impediment to action advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So Ryan's thesis here is that we don't need to get our butts kicked by obstacles. In fact, they can become the very thing that catalyze our growth. So how do we change our orientation to obstacles, take effective action, and have the will to move through life's challenges that inevitably come at us with a level of poise and grace and power? He also has a bunch of great stories of, not ancient, but historical figures like John D. Rockefeller, Amelia Earhart, up to Steve Jobs, other geniuses who have made their obstacles the way, the impetus for, the catalyst for their best growth. So the book is organized around 3 kind of sections and three primary concepts. Number one, perception. Perception, get into that in a moment. Action and will. Those are the three primary sections. Now, perception. How we perceive an obstacle is our starting point. Now, something happens, and that is bad, is actually two things. There's something happening, which is an objective analysis of reality. Then there's our interpretation of it, our perception of that event. If we perceive that to be bad, we're going to have a certain experience with that. If we perceive it to be an opportunity to use our greatest gifts and to show up and to become a stronger human being, well, that's going to lead to a different set of experiences and emotional states, right? So perception is where it starts. We've got to perceive our obstacles objectively, not get overly emotional about them, and then respond from fear and from whatever. We want to get control of our perception. That's one. And then two, we can take appropriate action. In spite of and in the face of these obstacles, we take action. We do what needs to get done, when it needs to get done, whether we feel like it or not. It's effective action. And right action, not just kind of reactive action, but right action. Very grounded, bold, yet humble, yet direct action. 3, will. This is kind of our soul power. So we show up, even when things are totally overwhelming. Maybe we can't do anything about the obstacle right now. And we can learn humility. We can learn that life is unpredictable. But we're going to have the will to see ourselves through whatever challenges we're facing. And over the long run, we see how this is going to make us stronger. Those are the 3 basic ideas. I'll leave it at that for now. We'll look at some of my favorite kind of ideas within those 3. The next one is panic buttons. This one's fun. Panic buttons. So Ryan tells a great story about NASA. When NASA first started venturing into space, what do you think they trained their astronauts in? The number one thing they trained their astronauts in was to not panic. Panicking in outer space doesn't go well together. And then he tells a story about John Glenn. John Glenn, first American to orbit Earth, right? Earth. John Glenn in a little contraption going around it. The dude, his heart rate never went over 100 beats per minute. Can you imagine that? You're in outer space, first American ever orbiting the planet, and your heart rate through the entire day never goes over 100. What? Tom Wolfe, I think it was, wrote a book where he talked about the right stuff. John Glenn had the right stuff. And then Ryan gives us a hard time. He says, look, this guy's going out into outer space and his heart isn't getting over 100 beats per minute. We walk up to someone on the street to have a conversation, or we have a challenging chat at work, or we drafting an email and our heart rate's racing. We're sweating, we're getting all panicky. We need to take our finger off the panic button, and we do that by getting control of our perception. We need to get our minds right. We need to appropriately see reality and respond with grace and poise. That's the panic button. Pretty funny. Next big idea, post-traumatic stress disorder versus post-traumatic growth. Psychologists call this aversive growth. We kind of take it for granted that something crazy happens, right? Just horrific, and then you suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, there are a lot of challenging things going on, but the reality is some people, not everyone, goes through that event and then experiences a stress disorder. Some people go through that event and they experience growth. How do they do that? How do they take poison and make it into medicine? We're going to talk about another book that Ryan recommended called The Undefeated Mind. We'll be doing that soon. And he has this great Buddhist idea of how do you take poison and make it medicine? Take something that could kill you and make you stronger and healthier. We just need to realize that it's a possibility. Oftentimes when we get into cloudy perception, we think that because something happened, therefore I responded this way. But there's always space between stimulus, something happens, and response. Right? So if you got stimulus and then you have response, there's a gap there. Now, when we don't have our minds right, we think it's collapsed and it's just this, but it's not. There's always a space. And what we want to do, as we talked about yesterday in the willpower instinct, is we want to pause and plan. We want to step into this gap and create a gap by getting our minds right consistently such that we can choose the best possible response. That's the essence of what we want to do. And then we have the freedom to grow from the most aversive things we face in our lives. Stoics got this. People we admire got this. We want to get this. Next big idea, the genius equation. Ryan talks about this a lot when we look at action and will. Action and will. Now, a lot of people think that genius is 99% inspiration and 1% perspiration. Right? That Michael Jordan was just born the best basketball player ever. Mozart, wow. Charles Darwin, these guys are geniuses. But the reality is, it was 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration, as Thomas Edison, who Ryan talks about, tells us. 1% inspiration and 99% hustle and hard work. Perspiration. That's the equation for genius. And he says it's not about a flash of insight. He shares a story about Ulysses S. Grant and then Thomas Edison and how many times they failed again and again and again and again, but they kept at it and they hit it again and again and again and again and again, and they broke through. That's the genius equation we want to embrace. Final big idea, the process. He shares a story about Nick Saban. So Nick Saban's the coach of the University of Alabama and one of the winningest programs in college history. Extraordinary. But they don't talk about winning SEC championships or winning national championships. They talk about the process. Capital T, capital P, the process. Everyone in the organization is all about the process. And the word that they use that I just love, let's find some space up here, is finish. Finish. Nick Saban is all about finishing. Finish this rep, finish this drill, finish this play, finish this, tape session. We were reviewing plays from last week. Finish. Finish what you're starting. It's a combination of will and action. I just love that. In my work, I have things I can either start and peter off on, or things I can finish. We want to get in the habit of finishing. Then we have this engine, this power. We get obstacles, and those become something that fuels us. Really cool idea. The process, again, we've been talking about that a lot. Don't focus on the outcome. Focus on what you need to do, who you need to be to have great days, and let the outcome be a byproduct of you showing up and executing moment to moment to moment to moment. So there you go. Quick look at Ryan Holiday's great book, The Obstacle is the Way. 1 + 2 + 3. Get your mind right, perception, take action, keep your will strong, your soul power. Panic buttons, do not hit the panic button. Remember our friend John Glenn, cruising around Earth? His heart rate stays under 100. That's awesome. He's got the right stuff. PTSD versus PTG, post-traumatic growth. Poison to medicine. Nassim Taleb in Anti-Fragile talks about the fact that wind extinguishes a candle and fuels a fire. Wind extinguishes a candle and fuels a fire. We want to be a fire where the obstacle, the wind, becomes fuel for our growth. Huge idea. Genius equation. 1% inspiration, 99% hustle, perspiration. Are you working hard, or are you kind of sort of mailing in and showing up and then admiring people who you think were just born that way? These people hustled. They worked hard. The process, finish. Finish, 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 finish. You start something, you finish it. Do your best moment to moment to moment, diligently, patiently, persistently. And as S.N. Guenca says, you're bound to be successful. Bound to be successful. You can't show up diligently, patiently, persistently, day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out, decade in and decade out, and not be successful, period. I invite you to try that. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed. What was your favorite idea? As I always ask, how can you take that idea that landed most with you, which just reminded you of what you already know, and make it an embodied part of who you are? Theory to practice. Get on that, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Have another awesome day. See you.
Love it. It's one of my favorite books. It's in the top 12 books I recommended everybody read this year. Obstacle is the Way. I'm reading one of his books right now called Discipline is Destiny, which is really, really good. It kind of piggybacks on a lot of his other stuff that he does. But like right when he started off, what stands in the way becomes the way. I love that statement. It resonates with me in a lot of ways. So like my question to everybody is like, what's in your way? Like what is in your way right now? And it's going to be different for everybody. Like, does anybody want to take a shot at that and answer that? What's in your way, Nora? You know?
To doing better.
To doing better? So what would it take for you to do better?
Getting more knowledge.
More technology?
Yes. That technology and knowledge.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? What's in your way?
I'm disorganized.
Disorganized.
Yeah. Very disorganized.
Yeah. What's your car look like?
Car's clean.
Okay, well, that's one step, because I always tell people, I can tell you what your schedule looks like and what your business looks like by looking at your car. So car's clean, that's one step, I think, in the right direction. But what makes you disorganized?
I have too many different interests that I say yes to,
Mhm.
as far as, you know, I have some other stuff going on the East Coast, as you know, that I take on those responsibilities and I take on creative things, friends and whatnot. That I'm trying to get this rolling. And I need to sit and probably block out everything and just plan like my days and my weeks and whatnot ahead of time. What gets in my way, I guess, is my brain kind of is all over the place and I say yes to it.
So are you saying yes to too many things and not no
Definitely
to
saying-
enough?
Definitely saying yes.
And I think it's important, and I've had to learn this because I have like this superhero complex. Like I want to save and help everyone. When you have that type of mindset, you take on too many things because you're trying to help everybody. You can't help everybody. And what happens if you try to help everybody, you end up not helping the one person that's going to help everybody, which is yourself. And so I'm huge victim of that. Like I do that all the time. I shouldn't have called myself a victim. That's weird. But I mean, I'm a huge proponent of that. Like I do that all the time. I'm like, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. And it messes me up. And so what I've learned is that you do have to say no to certain things. You have to say yes to different things. And sometimes it's not saying no, it's just saying not right now. Like, you know, like plan it out, like space it out. Say, I'm not doing this today, but I can do it next month. Or I can do it here and just prioritize. Like, do you operate off of a priority list or a to-do list or anything like that?
Yes, I have a to-do list and I do prioritize certain things. I have a, you know, on my reminder list, on my phone, I have flags, I'm sure things I must get done this morning, but it normally changes and emergencies arise. And then I feel bad that I haven't done the thing I said I'm gonna do for that person, so then I start working on that. It is my main issue, it is my option.
Yeah. So what would you have to do to get more of that stuff done? Like what, so there's a perception that we're talking about here. What would the action be? What would you have to do to like mow that stuff down?
I think the main thing I have to do, not just prioritize things, but create a schedule.
Mhm.
I need to go back to grade school kind of stuff, like 1 hour in the morning, I'm gonna do this, you know, from 9 to 10, I'm gonna do this, 10 to 11, I'm gonna do that, 11 to 12, I'll take a break. I need to be very rigid, like a behavioral chart.
Yeah. I had somebody that gave me the framework of like, you have your priority list and you have the number one thing on your list. Number two doesn't get done until number one's done. And if you have to sit there and not do anything until number one is done, then that's what you do. But nothing happens until number one is done. And that works for me a lot of the time, but I become like a casualty of things happen.
Yeah.
Like when you have bombs blowing up all around you or whatever. And I was just reminded on it, before this call, I do a coaching call with my trainer. And so like, I'm telling my trainer, like, listen, I haven't been on point the way I want to with my diet and this and that. And there's a lot of stress with this and a lot of stress with that. And he was like, well, you know what to do. I'm like, I do know what to do. He goes, well, stop crying and being a little baby and just get it done. And I'm like, I didn't think of myself as like crying and being a little baby, but he was just like, you know what, stress happens to all of us. Like, it's gonna happen to everybody. And the more successful you get and the bigger you get in life, you're gonna have more of it. If you can't deal with it now, like, what are you gonna do then? I go, all right, I got it, I got it. And he actually said something else that I'm not gonna repeat, because he's if you ever thought of a personal trainer as a Marine drill sergeant, like, that's my guy. And he says things that are just like, he's not nice. And he called me out like in a really, really hard way. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I get it. So it's just like, I would say a lot of our issues when it comes to getting things done, like, what's the number one thing that you have to do in real estate to make sales? Lead generation. So it's really hard for people to call people, especially when I tell you, like, go call the people you haven't talked to in 5 years. That becomes a very difficult thing to do. It's like, you're like, I don't want to do that. And like, when you talk about the heart rate in John Glenn in space, right? The heart rate and all that stuff, and people, and I resonated with diving, because has anybody ever dived? It's the same concept. Like, they're like, this is what's gonna happen. Don't panic, don't freak out. You're gonna use your oxygen up too fast if you do that. And I remember when I went diving, I was out by the rocks or whatever, and it was really funny, because there was one lady that was like freaking out, completely freaking out. It made me feeling the little bit that I was freaking out. I think I'm good now. I'm good, because she's worse than me, right? And so, like, I had that frame of reference, but I remember I sat at the bottom of the ocean for a few minutes while everybody was doing their thing, and I just had to go, okay, just patient. I'm fine. Nothing's gonna happen. I can breathe. And I had to kind of recenter myself, because my perception of what was happening was different. The instructor's perception, he did this 2 times a day, every day for like the last 10 years. So like, he's just like, put it on. His perception was like, this is really super easy. And then the people that hadn't done it before, they're like, oh my God, I'm underwater. I can't breathe. So it's the same situation. We just perceive things differently, right? And you ever heard the iceberg analogy, where you see the iceberg, it's only the tip of the iceberg, and yet there's this whole massive thing under the iceberg. And if, like, I'm looking at this chair over here, like, if Norma's looking at the chair, you can't even see the whole chair, can you? Right, so I'm looking at, that's like the most comfortable chair ever. How would you know if it's the most comfortable chair ever? Because you only see a little bit of it. So that's your perception. So people can look at the same things and have a different perception, but whatever you're looking at, as far as if it's lead generation, picking up the phone, I mean, it's the same thing. You're gonna have a conversation. It could be negative, it could be positive, it could be middle of the road, it could be whatever, but it's just a conversation. So that resonated with me. And the roller coaster analogy that I've used in the past is that if you're afraid of roller coasters and you've never been on one, but it looks super scary, when you get on that roller coaster, your heart is going to go, oh my God, this is, and when you ride it, it's gonna freak you out. But if you rode it 10 times in a row, the 10th time, you'd probably be like, can I get off this thing on board already? Right? So you just have to start looking at things differently and realize that it's all just a perception that may or may not be true. The number 2 action part. So my question, like, to you is like, what do you have to do to overcome that? What do you have to do to like make a massive change? So like, the book we did last week was the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. So if you take this idea with the last book and you take action, which in Grant's ideas is massive action, to solve your issue or to get your business where you need it to be, what type of massive action could you do? And it's going to be different for all of us. Do you know what that would be?
Yeah, I truly believe that I need to be able to schedule, like, I need my days completely scheduled out. I need to build in there, like, if you said there's some bombs at the wall.
Yeah.
I probably need to build some bomb time in there.
Yep.
But I'm a father, I'm a husband, administrator, healthcare, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So I need to be super organized, and that is the one thing I'm definitely not. I'm not a super organized person.
Have you ever thought of hiring a VA,
Or what?
a virtual assistant?
I've never thought of that. I didn't even know what that is.
So a virtual assistant is somebody that works remotely that can help you with your calendar and your schedule and help organize you like a secretary, like an assistant, just virtually. Manage all of your stuff. So like I have one that handles not all of, but a lot of my social media stuff. Handles a lot of like video editing and just things that I can do. I can do video editing, but it just takes so much time. And if I send something over to this person, they have it done in like one day.
How much does that cost?
So I can probably hook you up if you're interested, but it's for full time, it's $500 a month. And it's just like it's a Filipino VA service that's out there that you can hire somebody. It's $500 a month. I've done a tremendous amount of research in this area because it's a big thing since COVID. But it's one of those things. It's all leverage. Like how much time what could you give to another person to free up your time to do the bigger rocks so they can do the little things? You know, that's where I came from. It's just like, will I be willing to pay this person XYZ, and will I be able to get more done? And the answer was yes. And so my thing, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what can I do to give that person more stuff to do so I can do bigger things.
They'll do whatever, like, if I needed to buy tickets from Delta.com, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a legit personal assistant, PAs is what they call them in Hollywood, I guess. But yeah, so like you can literally find them to do literally anything that you need to do. Name it, like I have them going through recruits and following up with emails and following up with text messages and following up with all of this stuff. And I'm just trying to build like a funnel of different things that this person can do to just make everything that I do grow. So that's one thing. What about anybody else? Like what is the thing that you're trying to get more information on and do? Like what would be your massive action tool to grow your business? Anybody? I can dance for everybody. No?
To run the business,
Huh?
to grow the business.
And how, and what would you have to
I
do?
have very similar challenges.
Yep.
Because I have 3 kids.
Yep,
One kid with type 1 diabetes, who was just calling me from school, giving me the insulin pen, and I'm like,
yeah,
can now, but there's always, even though you want to be on a schedule,
yeah.
there's always things that show up,
Mhm.
break that schedule. So, but it has helped me a lot to write it down and just be focused on, certain time of the day. So yeah. And then that fear to, start, there's always that fear to open up to other people to talk about real estate and
Yeah.
that, so, yeah.
So talk to me about that fear. Like where is that fear showing up for you?
I feel like if I'm talking to people like one-on-one like this.
Yeah.
It comes out, it's more natural than making a phone call and just trying to bring that into with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bring up the conversation. But one-on-one it comes easier.
Yeah. So the one thing I heard you say is that the fear of talking about real estate, right?
If
So-
I have to pick up the phone and call.
So what if you just took real estate off the table and you just called somebody to catch up with them?
Yeah.
So like today, so Tracy and I, we're on this crusade to grow our database, just like I'm telling all of you guys to do, that's what we're doing. And so we've gotten to a point to where like a month or so ago, we were like, we got everybody, like there's nobody else. And I'm like, you know what? I can go back and find people that I've sold houses to and this and that are, I can go on this like scavenger hunt to try and find people. So I started doing that. And like today, one of the people that I'm going to reach out to is somebody who doesn't live in California anymore, that I've known him since I was 16 years old, and I haven't talked to him in years. And I'm going to reach out to him. And so in my mind, what I do is I role play in my mind. It's funny, when I started real estate, I started role playing with myself when I drove. This was before Bluetooth. And so I'm sure people thought I was insane while I was like going down the street talking to myself. But I role play in my own head how the conversation's going to go. So I'm like, hey, Greg, it's Frank. I know that we haven't talked in a really long time, but I wanted to reach out because I'm updating my database and I realized I don't have your address. And I want to send you some cards for like the holidays and birthdays and stuff like that. I want to make sure that, is that okay if you can give me your address? And I just did this with somebody and they're like, sure, give me the address immediately. But I didn't ask for their birthday. And my wife was like, well, it's the birthday. And I go, I don't know. I have to find out. And so now I'm like, I gotta ask for their birthday. So I have this all down in my head, and then I actually role play like, how is he gonna respond? So now I've already had the conversation. So I already kind of know how it's gonna go. So it actually makes the anxiety a little less. And I have the conversation over and over and over in my head on how it's gonna go and what I'm gonna do. And then when am I gonna do this? So I'm gonna do this like literally when this class is over, I'm gonna get myself together, go back to my office, I'm gonna sit down. And then I have to touch base with a few of these people, and he is the number one person. I've already said number one person, that's the action. And I'm gonna take massive action because it's taken me a little while to get the people that I need into the database. And I'm going to do that on a big level today. So that's like my one big thing. But the massive action is that I have to stop worrying about how I feel about it and just actually do it. And when I get that result on the other end, that's gonna be well worth it. And it's gonna be kind of like riding a roller coaster. Like I'm gonna be all scared about riding the roller coaster, but if I ride it like 5 times today by calling all these people, like I'm gonna be good. So I think that's probably, if you call people and take real estate conversation off the table, just touch base with them. How are you doing? I mean, you teach, right? How many students do you have?
Very, well, I work with schools and then my private.
So over time, how many people do you think you taught?
Between, let's say 150 to 200.
150?
Plus the schools, right? But I don't have there.
You don't have their direct information? Oh. What do you have?
Well, with some of them,
But you have their phone numbers, right?
yes.
So if you have 200 people, that's not even your sphere of influence. This is just your students. So if you take the number that I use 6%, my coach uses 10. But if you use 6%, that's 12 people that could potentially, that statistically says they're gonna buy, sell, or rent or refer business out in the next 12 months. So that's 12 people right there that all you have to do is reach out to them and make sure that they know you're in real estate. You don't have to talk about real estate. You just make sure that they know that.
And I'm starting,
So when you say I'm starting to do that, what does that mean?
like I bring it up, like,
Uh-huh.
yes. So where are you living? And what language teaching?
Yep.
Give them a lesson. Like just starting.
So can we coach for a minute? So you're coaching me, so you're teaching me how to swing a golf club, which would be a really hard thing to teach me because I'm not very good at it. I like to muscle through it, but so we're sitting there like, how would you bring it up?
So, did you just have a lot of traffic coming to Rancho?
Yeah, it was a little heavier today, I know there was a helicopter circling. I don't know if there was like a accident or like a police chase or something, but yeah, it was a lot.
You're close, right? You live nearby.
Yeah, it was unusually busy today for some reason. I don't know.
Okay, and, do you want me to get into that?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, and, how long have you been living there?
Oh, I've been there like 10 years.
You share and I heard you share the dorm with 3 other friends, right?
Yeah, is this all while I'm going like this? Like,
You're studying at UCLA.
Yeah.
I know you-
yeah, yeah.
So if at some point you're looking to move, let me know, I'm in real estate, so.
Oh, okay, great. How was that shot? No.
And then it changes that.
Yeah. So I'm a really big advocate is when you talk to somebody, if you really know them, you kind of have to guide the conversation on what's best for them and that person specifically. Like there's people that I can talk to straight out and just say something straight out, like, do you rent or do you own? No, I'm just looking at you while I'm saying it. Like, do you rent or do you own? And they go, oh, I rent. I go, really? I go, did you know that if you bought a house, you'd actually probably pay less in a mortgage than you would pay for, there's people I can just say that straight out with, but there's other people I can't. So if you have to manage the conversation based on how well you know that person, and sometimes what it is that, you ask them, I think the way you handled that was really good. I think that was really good. And so I think what you would need to do is have more of those conversations, so it's a little bit more well-oiled. And the one thing I would not do is frame it in a way as like, if you need something, let me know. I would take that off the table and just say, if you ever have any questions, or if you want some information, you know, let me know, not kind of solicit services, you know what I mean? So you want to kind of take that off the table and make sure all that you need to do on the first conversation is make sure that they know you're in real estate. Say like, this is my side gig, I'm actually in real estate, you know, and prepare it that way, and then you start sending them things. So after you have that conversation, what do you do?
I'll see him next week.
Okay,
Or more or less.
okay. Do you have access to their address and stuff like that or no? Okay, so what you would want to do is when you talk to somebody, you want to put them in your database and send them things. Send them holiday cards, send them birthday cards, send them whatever you can send them to drop it in the mail, because now that they know that you're in real estate, you have to follow up. And then everybody that you know is in your database, it's just an entire follow-up plan to where you have to literally bomb them with stuff, but stuff of value. You know, like when you first initially meet somebody, so there's one of the #1 agents in the world, does billions of dollars of sales a year, like 1 to 2 billion a year easily. Whenever he meets somebody, he has his listing presentation or his presentation for him and his team put together in a book. So like, you know how we have flip charts and you have digital presentations, like he put his in a book. And when he meets somebody, he goes back to his team or he texts his team and he says, send this guy a book. Sends him a book, guy gets a book in the mail, and it's literally the team's presentation. And it's like a really powerful version of who he is. Like, so it really sets him apart. And things like that cost a little bit of money, probably like $15 to $20 per book, but it creates a powerful presentation on who he is. So my point is that when you have that conversation with somebody, if you don't want it to be forgotten, you have to follow up. And so like I tell people, like you have to follow up like 40 plus times in a year with one person. Does that make sense? So the next time, because what happens is you talk to that person and you're gonna see him in a week, right? So like, you're gonna say, hey, how's the family? How's the kids? How's the job? What do you do for work? This and that. And you know, at some point, real estate might pop up. You say, oh yeah, you know what? Like when you say, you live close, don't you? Yeah, I live close. You know what? I don't know if you know, but I also do real estate, and we sold a house right around the corner from there. Do you know how much your house is worth? And then like you have a little conversation, but you don't ask them, you know, can I help you, blah, blah, blah. But then after that person leaves, you pop like a market report in the mail to them and just said, hey, I wanted to send this to you because of the conversation we had. And you drop it in the mail. And then that's it. And then you just follow up, because when you talk to somebody today and you're like, how's the wife? How's the family? How's the kids? How's the job? Everything's fantastic. House is perfect. Kids are perfect. Family's perfect. Everything's perfect. In 2 weeks, it might not be. And you don't want whatever conversation that you had that first day to go unnoticed, because once you talk to somebody, you do a follow-up to them where you drop a note card in, you send them something, a thank you or whatever, because in 2 weeks, a month, whenever, things might not be okay. Or they might not be okay right then and there, and they're not comfortable talking to you yet. But if you follow up with them and real estate pops into their head, you want to be top of mind. I mean, I could probably poll everybody in this room and everybody in the office and show you that most people in general don't follow up. Most agents don't. And the thing is everybody you know is in somebody else's database. Guaranteed they're in Zillow's database. That's a whole different conversation. But if you're in Zillow's database, somebody's following up with you from there. You're getting sent something. I remember I went to a Hilton in Texas, and I stayed for one or two nights, and I paid them like $600 for both nights. The follow-up that hotel did with me after that, I'm still getting emails. And I only gave them $600, but they were like, hey, how was your stay? What about this? What about this? Discount here, discount here, da, 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 da. Like, so like I have Hilton on the brain because I get so many emails from Hilton. Realtors don't do that. Realtors don't do that. And you guys are making, like, you're getting tens of thousands of dollars from people, not 600. So if we like take a page out of the Hilton's book, like if you go to Hilton and you sign up for their honors or something like that, you're gonna get bombed with emails. I signed up with Grant Cardone. And when I signed up, I swear to God, he gave me 10 emails in one day. Wasn't mad at it. I was like, man, I'm learning something right now. So what else? So we have what stands in the way becomes the way. Heart rate. What is your way? What is in your way? In your way. This, the massive action, is the really, really important part. It's what a lot of people have struggles with. And I always go back to the rule of 100. Like pick 100 people and to call 100 people in a day. Reach out to 100 people you don't know. Do 100 pieces of content. Do something that's massive action. And if you're consistent in doing that, you will get some form of a return. Because part of what a lot of you are doing out there, like if you haven't sold a lot of houses recently, you need people to know who you are. Do you know, I heard on the way today that the who watched the Super Bowl? What'd you guys think? No, you didn't watch it? Did you like it?
Yeah, great, I won.
You won? Well, there you go.
Money.
Oh, I don't know, the Chiefs scared me there for a while. I was like, what's going on? But Brock Purdy won regardless, so I'm sure he's happy he was there. But you know how much it costs to put a commercial on the Super Bowl? I looked it up beforehand and I was wrong. In 2023, it was $2 million for a 30-second commercial. What do you think it was for this year? 7 million. Well, I'm sure somebody paid 14. I'm sure somebody did.
Nice.
Huh?
It was 14.
Yeah, it's $14 million to have the largest attention of everybody on the planet, right? I mean, that's what you're trying to do. That's why when I say put 100 pieces of content out there, because you can do content on social media for free. And what you're trying to do, the same thing that these people that are paying $14 million that are doing, you're trying to get people's attention. Because people have to see who you are. And if you're not, you're kind of like being a secret agent. You ever watch Get Smart, like Agent 86 and Agent 99? Now, am I dating myself like really bad right now? There's people on Zoom that I know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, you don't want to be a secret agent. You want to be an agent that everybody is seeing and everybody is knowing. I mean, do you think like Richard Chilman does 300 million in sales a year? Do you think he does a lot of social media or he reaches out to a lot of people every day? Do you think you could probably do more than what you're doing now? So massive action. Now this part, the will part, is the part that I really like. Because this resonates with me. Everybody has a process. So you have your 200 students, right? And in addition to your sphere of influence. So I used you, so I'm gonna keep using you. So the thing is that when you talk to these people, there's a process. Like not everybody's ready to buy or sell today. And if you look online at other realtors, there's people out there that are buying and selling right now. But everybody has a process. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm just gonna sell the house today. Or let's go buy 6 houses. Let's go to lunch, buy 6 houses. Like nobody does that. Everybody has a process. Everybody will rent, buy or sell at some point in their life. So your job is to figure out where are they at in that process. Where are they at? And the way you do that is you have to show up. You have to show up for them, show up and figure out where are they at, show up and have the conversations. And so when you show up, the myth, I believe, is that you have to show up and give 100%. Like if I say you call 20 people today, like your goal, 100 contacts this week, that's what you have to do. That's usually where I start with my coaching clients, 20 to 25 a day. And then what happens is if you don't do that, what I do is I change the number, but the number goes up. So if you're not doing 20 to 25 a day, I'm gonna make you do more per day. Because there's a threshold that I'm trying to get you pushed past because I don't want to move the goal. I want to move the actions that you're doing on a daily basis. A lot of people will say, I'm going to make 100,000 this year. And it becomes July and they're like, oh, you know what, I'm good with 50,000. No. You can 100% do 100,000 in 6 months. I've done it. So I know that it is 100% possible. But you can't change the goal because maybe that first 6 months of the year, like life got in the way. Like things blew up, things happened. That's great. Happens to all of us. So the next 6 months, you have to change what you're supposed to do on a daily basis to get to that goal. But everybody in your database and everybody that you know has a process. So your job is to figure out where are they at in the process. Are they ready to buy? Are they ready to sell? Are they ready to invest? The investment conversation is something I'm going to bring into the office for everybody. That's a different conversation. But everybody on this planet would invest some of their home's equity if it could get them a passive income. Problem is, most people don't know how to do it. It's 100% possible. I have a way right now this second. You have somebody with money? Let's look at the money. We have to pick the location, pick the area. I can guarantee you that we can find a way to take your money, put it somewhere, and it covers all the expenses and everything, and they're not negative. Out here, average price point 1.5 million. There's a place, average price point 200,000. It's just part of the United States. There's different parts. There's lots of different parts, actually. So you just got to figure out where you're at in the process. You have to show up. You don't have to give 100%, give 10%, give 15%. Just show up and be consistent. The consistency is the key. Consistency. And I tell this, anybody that's been in a recruiting appointment with me, I've told you that like the problem is that most realtors will show up on Monday and give 100%. They don't show up on Tuesday, they don't show up on Wednesday. They show up, give a half a day on Thursday, and then they expect more out of their real estate business than what they're getting. If you're not showing up for yourself every day, you're not going to get the results. That's like if I go to the gym 1 day a week and I expect to lose weight and make muscle, that's not going to happen, right? There's no way. You know, but the thing is that, you know, I have a part of the accountability part is if you want to coach with me, you come here, we sit down and we talk, and you're like, my business isn't where it's supposed to be. And the first thing I'm going to say, so our meeting will probably be 5 minutes. If you're like, my business isn't where it's supposed to be, I'm going to say, let me see your schedule. You're going to show me your schedule, and then we'll have the schedule conversation, and then I'm going to say, go do it. That'll take about 5 to 10 minute conversation. So the thing is that if you start showing up for yourself and you're like, I'm supposed to have 20 conversations today, I did 10. I wouldn't be mad at you. I'm happy that you tried. Next day, what do you do? Next day, what do you do? And if you show up consistently, you will hit your goal. It's just a process. You have to figure out where the process is and you have to finish. This absolute 100% favorite part of the book, the 99% versus 1% genius equation. If anybody saw the team meeting that I did where I did show the Kobe Bryant video, is that Kobe Bryant showed up in a summer league when he was really young. He was like 10 or 11, I think. And he scored 0 points in the entire season. And the interviewer was like, did you play? He's like, yeah, I played. I was just terrible. And then after that season, he realized that he had to perfect how much he was doing. And what he did is he realized it was just math. That if I asked her too many questions, she's mad at me and she's leaving now. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know, I'm just kidding. That he realized it was just math. And he says most kids that are in like a recreation, like basketball league, they practice 2 hours a week, 2 times a week, 2 hours a week. And I know that for a fact because my kids were in basketball and soccer, like we did all the sports. Like 3 kids by myself, 3 sports, it was insane. But it was just 2 hours a week, mostly. And he's like, so all I did is that I did more than that. I did every day. Did an hour a day. And if you're doing an hour a day versus 2 hours a week, you're going to exponentially grow and get better. So it actually just became math. And this is the same with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and all of them. It came down to the work, the hustle, the intent, the intentionality of putting in the work to actually learn how to make a better shot. And Kobe said he picked different shots. He did, 6-foot jumper, and he did free throws, and he did this, he did layups, and he did them until he became way, way better at it. And within 2 years, he became the #1 player in the state out of all ages. And if we, as business people, took that type of mindset and realized it's not about talent, it's not about skill, it's not about, how smart you are, how good you look, or anything like that. It comes down to repetitions. How many reps are you doing every day? It's kind of like if I go to the gym and I lift a 50-pound weight, which as a curl, I don't think I could do it. But like I try to do 150-pound weight, I do it one time and I expect my muscle to grow. It's not going to happen. I'm going to start out 25 and have to do a lot of reps. and I go up to 20, then I go up to 30, and then I go up to 35, and I just have to do a lot of reps. And the more reps I do, is the payoff that I'll get. And that's what that's about. It's one of my favorite books. What do you guys, questions or thoughts?
What was the book called?
The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Thank you.
I listened to all of my books. He's good to listen to. His voice is a little solemn and calm, which I usually have a hard time with, but the content was pretty amazing that it kept me intrigued for the entire time. But it's by far one of my favorite books. And they quoted a book, The Undefeated Mind, which I haven't read yet, which I'll probably put on my list. I'm getting a lot of books right now on my list. Yes.
I have a question to you. So I know you did all of cold call and then you
Yep.
made a sell. So like willpower.
Yep.
Did you have an accountability partner that you can just keep your will, to?
So when I first started, you mean?
Yes.
So my accountability partner was fear. Because when I first started, and I don't know if I told you the story, when I first started, I quit my job like an insane person. I was making like 60 grand a year, and I quit my job because I couldn't do the real estate and the job at the same time. And I just started making phone calls. And I would call people, and I would say, hi, my name is Frank, I'm a real estate agent, I have a buyer looking in your neighborhood, if I can get you the price for a house, would you sell it? It's like the worst script ever. I would never tell people to use that script because there's no follow-up, there's nothing in there. But the only reason I was successful is because I did quit my job like an insane person. I walked into an office and I'm surrounded by, there was 20 guys in the office, and they were all making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were all like ballers in real estate. I knew them. I saw their bus benches, and like, I'm listening to them, and that's how I put the script together. And I'm thinking, if I could just act like them and sound like them, like something's bound to happen. And so like, I would get into this list and I'm thinking, my wife is pregnant. Like, what was I thinking? Like, I am an idiot. And so my accountability was fear.
So, you
Yeah.
tried it and then you don't need to answer me. So what's the reason? So you had a stable job
Yep.
and you moved to this unknown business?
Yep.
Like, may I ask the reason why you're saying?
Because I knew that I wasn't gonna grow in the
Okay,
job that I
right,
had,
right.
and that I knew that, and I saw a lot of people making a lot of money in real estate.
Potential,
And I'm thinking, I could make more than this.
right?
But then I got there and I realized that it's not that easy, that I have to actually, so I would call like a minimum of 100 people a day. Like, I would sit there, I got phone numbers and things from title company. I would sit there, and it was a desk phone because the cell phones weren't like they are today. It was a desk phone, and I would just sit there with my finger and dial these numbers. There wasn't an auto dialer, there wasn't any of that stuff. And I honestly called 100 people a day, and I would have this, and I'd say 90% of the time, I never got halfway through my script before I got hung up on. 90% of the time. And I was scared. I was scared that I wasn't gonna be able to provide for my family. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. But what I wanna do for everybody here is just like, if you wanna do accountability with me, we can schedule 5 to 10 minutes on whatever day you want, to where I'm gonna say, this is what you need to do. You bring your schedule, you bring what you did, you bring your obstacles to me. Because the thing is when you start making these phone calls, you're gonna hit an obstacle. You're gonna hit something sometime, somewhere, where you're gonna like, this sucks, I hate it. When I go to the gym on Mondays to do leg day, I say that every time I'm there, this sucks, I hate it. Because I know that I have to try to break my PR, my personal record, but I do it every day. But I know that if I don't, I have an accountability call for 15 minutes with my coach on Monday at 10:45, that I'm gonna have to tell him that I did not do what I said I was going to do. And then he's gonna say really bad things to me. Off recording, if you guys wanna know what he says, I will actually tell you exactly what he says. It's not nice, but it motivates me because it resonates with who I am. And so I was scared to death. And so if you guys want to do that, like, we'll sit down and I will tell you, this is what you need to do. And then it's just repetition. That's really all it is. The more people you talk to, the more people you get in front of, the more conversations you have, because you're going to have difficult conversations. You're gonna have conversations that don't turn out. You're gonna have a conversation with somebody that you think is your friend, and they're not gonna be your friend, because you're gonna keep having these conversations with them. They're just not gonna talk to you anymore, but they weren't gonna use you anyway, right? So that's the thing you have to get past. There was an agent in here that said, I don't wanna call the people I know or post on social media or talk to them on social media because I'm afraid they're gonna block me. I don't know if anybody was in here. And I said, okay. And I told her, I said, well, you're already blocked. You already blocked yourself by not making the phone calls, by not doing that. I said, so what's the harm? If they're gonna block you, they weren't gonna use you to begin with. So just go out there and move forward. And it's really like, some people, if you gamify it, and you're like, okay, you gotta call this many people and then I'm gonna get to do this, or I'm gonna get this many people, I go get a Starbucks, or this many people, I'm gonna go buy myself something like this. Like if you gamify it in some way that works for you, sometimes that works for people. But like what we would do is we'd have a conversation. It's like, what do I need to do to have you call all these people? Tracy, my wife, is like, she's like the Kobe Bryant of phone calls. Like she does her calls, no issues. She's calling like 80 to 100 people a week. She's consistent and she just blows through phone numbers. I'm not that good at that. I can do it. I don't like to do it. Usually when I don't like to do things, I just don't do it, right? This is the way we all are. So I'm not special. But she's like a different person. Like she can just get on the phone and just blow through phone calls really easy. I think she's actually calling people that know me and don't know her and introducing herself, which that would freak most people out. I don't know, is Tracy, are you on here? I don't know if she's on.
Yes.
Hey there. Tell me about your phone calls that you make and tell me how you do it, because I think it's amazing.
Well, first of all, when I call my sphere, I've been doing it for so long, I pretty much know who to call and who to text because I know their style. I think it's really important to pay attention to that. When it comes to people that I don't know, of course, it's a little bit harder and you're going to get a lot of rejection, but you just have to overcome that. I have trained myself to believe that every no that I get, or someone hanging up on me, or someone telling me to F off, or someone not answering, it's just going to be the next phone call that's going to have a nice conversation with me. I have noticed through the years, people are a lot more apt to reply to text messages than they are leaving a voicemail, but I still end up leaving a voicemail and I follow up with a text. So I always feel like I don't want to leave a stone unturned and think, well, gosh, I wonder if I would have texted them or if I had left a voicemail, they would have responded. So I do all of that. My important thing is winning the day. I just have to win the day. And winning the day could be not getting a listing, not getting a buyer, not getting anything, but I made my calls. I did my lead gen.
Yeah. How many calls do you make a week?
It's a week. It's anywhere between 75 to 90. This week, our goal with our coach, well, how many calls I make is different than how many contacts. My contacts per week is my goal is anywhere from 60 to 80 of actually talking to people, or having them reply to an email or having them reply to a text message. In order to get those numbers, you have to do a lot more than that. So when
So
you
how many-
say like you have people make 25 calls, I think you said 25 calls a week or 25 calls a day.
A day. A day.
God, I would love that. That to me is like cake. I would love to be able to do that, but and get the results that I'm looking for, but I can't. You have to do so much more.
How many calls do you think you make a day to get your 80 contacts?
Oh my gosh, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't track that. I just track, like, for example, I just did an exercise that our coach gave us. I just texted with a very specific message 165 people, and I haven't gotten one response yet. And I have to have 100 conversations this week. So this is day one. I sent out 165 text messages, no response. So that tells me I gotta do a lot more. I gotta do a lot more calls, a lot more emails, a lot more conversations with people.
So are you behind? Because I know it's already 12. You usually have your stuff done before 12. So are you behind because of that?
I am super behind because this morning I had a coaching call and then I've been on this call and then I had to go drop something off at my sister's house and I have a 12:45 appointment with a photographer at our new listing. So I have a lot to make up. And I am not a big fan of rolling things over to the next day because then I just make up excuses for not completing it. So my next goal is to reach out to, we have over 2,000 online leads. And my goal is to start reaching out to those people with a very specific message to work on getting our 100 responses. Those are the heavy lifting. Calling our database is way easier.
So I was talking to Bobby in the class here and he was talking about getting things done on a priority list. You are probably the overlord of priority lists and probably get things done better and faster and more efficiently than anybody I know. Like, how do you get things done on your list on a daily basis? And how often do you not get things done? And what happens when you don't get things done?
Okay, so I'm gonna turn my video on.
Okay.
Okay, so see this binder?
Yep.
Okay. Every day before I go to bed, I have a list of what I'm doing the next day. And my usual things at the top are what my lead gen looks like, whether that's calling our database, calling our online leads, doing some kind of post for our farm, doing some kind of videos. That's always at the top of my list, along with everything else that I have to get done for the day. I mean, I have like literally every page is a list. My list is so important, and I don't feel like I've won the day unless I've completed my list. And I have years of these binders. So I go into it very organized. So I don't feel like I've won my day if I haven't done the things on my list that have to do with lead generation.
I have a question. So usually you plan the day before, not the weekly. To plan.
Well,
usually.
I know like for appointments and stuff like that, that's always planned in my calendar. And I go off of my calendar. So like I'll give you a perfect example, today's list. My coaching call with our coach, calling expireds, wrap my daughter's birthday gift, texting, going through the expireds that are older leads, calling our database. And on that, my database, I have a separate list. This is my list for my database. And it tells me every day who I'm supposed to be reaching out to. So I'm very methodical and organized. I know exactly what I have to be doing. On here is the marketing stuff that I have to be working on. I'm booking a couple showing appointments for the end of the week. I have this call on my list, and I have a couple exercises from our coach that I have to get done before Thursday. So those are on my list to make sure that I get completed. Tomorrow's list starts at the very top, calling my database, working on our expireds, finishing the online leads that I have to do, uploading our new listing into the MLS. And if I have time, I'd like to go get a car wash. That list will grow. That list will grow because whatever I don't complete today will go over there, or any new things that come up today will go on that list. So I'm constantly knowing exactly what I have to be doing.
So you kind of know the week before, like you know the weekly schedule and it's something adding to it, the daily.
Yes.
basis.
Yep.
Thank you.
If you get put on her list, like if I get put on her list to where I have to do something that involves some of this stuff, like whether it's real estate or person, I have an oh shit moment. Because I know that like, if I don't get what I need done, like she's on top of me. She's like, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you? And it's just like, and so like I have to take what she needs done and I have to throw it in the mix of all the things that I have doing with the office and all these other things. And it's just like, I know that like she's my accountability partner because like if I mess things up, I mess things up on her list and like she doesn't, and that nobody likes that. Right? So she's really, really good at doing these things. And she is the one thing that I wished everybody would be, and that's consistent. It's the consistency of that. What happens if something doesn't get done on the day? Like how quickly will it get, like, have you had anything ever go for like a week and it didn't get done?
Oh yeah, there's things that I'll put off because I don't have time. It's typically like writing scripts for videos, for doing real estate videos. I'm supposed to do those on Sundays, so I know exactly what I'm shooting on Monday, but sometimes on Sunday I don't get it done. Or I'll know Monday I'm too busy to do my videos, so I'll put that off and then I'll make another goal. Like I'm always setting a goal. Okay, Tracy, you have to get this done by Tuesday because on Wednesday you have wide open so you can film all your real estate videos.
Nice. Anybody have questions for her? All right. Thanks, Trace. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Randomly calling you, springing it on her. All right, any questions or anything before we wrap this up? Was that helpful? Yeah. Very cool. All right, you want to play the last video? We all get out of here and get our calls in.
For somebody going through tough times, for somebody struggling just to keep your head above water. You're trying.
Welcome back to Philosophers Notes TV. Ego is the enemy. By Ryan Holiday. Ego is the enemy. No subtitle.
At this season in your life, but you're still suffering. You have no say-so in what happens to you, but you have a say-so in what you do about it. You have a determining voice into where your life can go. See, life is 10% what happens to you. It's 90% what you do about it. You get a setback. You get thrown off course. You lost your mama. That's dirt. But show me something that has grown into something beautiful that didn't have no dirt on it. You need dirt on you to develop, because dirt ain't just dirt. Dirt is fertilizer. Dirt is nutrient. Dirt gives you the strength for your seed to push through. You gotta have dirt on you to push through something. Everything you see that's beautiful starts out as a seed, but that seed got to get dirt on it. You got to have dirt on you to grow into what life got for you.
The only thing I want from you is that every single day when uncertainty creeps in, I need you to get up and I need you to go heavy on it. In the midst of opposition, in the midst of challenges, in the midst of adversity, when you taste a little bit of blood and something happens that you didn't expect to happen, I need you to go heavy on it.
You gotta be willing to go after your stuff. You gotta be willing to go after whatever has got your name on it. Sometimes you gotta fight your way over. Sometimes you gotta fight your way through. Sometimes you gotta look in the mirror and say, listen, I ain't got nobody else to encourage us right now. It's just me and you. But I'm telling you, you're the head and not the tail. And I'm fighting for me, or my house, or my children, or my brothers, or my sisters, or my husband, or my vision, or my dream. I'm gonna stand right here, and I ain't giving up my children. I'm not giving up my money. No, I'm standing. You can't keep quitting your whole life. You can't keep backing up, and you can't keep fainting, taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. After a while, there ought to be something in our lives that we stand through. Sicknesses that you stood through, struggles that you stood through, weaknesses that you stood through, crises that you stood through, pressures that you stood through. That is where character is developed. That's what defines our destiny when you are in the middle of transition.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Fred. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Sandy.